In a field lies hope, anticipation. From the biggest races to the brightest stages, taking you on the wildest ride.
Forbidden Trade with a gigantic upset. Best in show.
For the glory, the pride, the payoff. Enter the field, the Ontario Sire Stakes program, from Ontario farms to the world stage.
The Central Ontario Standardbred Association is working with you to ensure a vibrant horse racing community. Shared stories call for a united voice. That's COSA, representing the interests of horse people racing at Ontario racetracks. So whether you're first, last, or somewhere in between, we've got your back. With insurance, benefits, free lifetime memberships, and more. COSA. Follow our stories on social and check out the process at cosaonline.com.
Winback Farm of Canada is home to 8 outstanding pacers, including $2 million earner and O'Brien Horse of the Year betting line, who is new to Canada in 2022. Look for first crop yearlings from these 3 standout stallions in 2022. O'Brien Award winner and earner of over $1.4 million, Jimmy Freight, Horse of the Year and richest pacing stallion in harness racing history, McWicked, and O'Brien Award winner and Metro Pace champion, Stag Party. Also standing millionaires, Art Spink, Better Than Cheddar, Better's Delight, and Shadow Play. For more information, visit winbackfarm.com. That's winbackfarm.com.
Dr. Moore, as we were coming over, we were researching about you and we were joking in the car, my cameraman and I. You are the James Bond of harness racing. You have done everything. You fly your own plane. You've been a stock car driver. In the prep, we're talking about your softball and your ice hockey. You've led a very exciting life.
Well, I might as well do it while you're here, right? Because you won't have a second chance, that's for sure.
You've been in all these different areas and all these different arenas that are deal with speed. What about harness racing? What drew you to that sport?
Well, none of my family was into horse racing at all. In fact, my mother hated it because her father was a gambler, and they used to go lots of times with no food on the table, apparently, I was told, when she was younger because of that. But the school that I went to in Prince Edward Island when I was very young was only maybe about a quarter of a mile from the racetrack, and the janitor of the track, the janitor of the school, his name was Lester Chappell. The Chappell family was a very big family in harness racing in PEI and the Maritimes at the time. Took me to the track one day and it went from there. So that was when I was about 12 years old, so I'm 68 now, so it's been over 50 years, that's for sure, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Did your love for harness racing start and develop and change you to want to be a vet, or did you always know that you wanted to work with animals in that capacity? What came first?
Well, I wanted to work with horses, actually, and it was sort of a struggle to become a veterinarian in the early part of it all because I quit school twice. I worked in Pennsylvania with Cecil Champion at the Meadows one summer after the first time I quit school, and then I went to college 1 year at the at the prodding and pushing of my father, I guess, he was an obstetrician gynecologist, so he was a well-educated man, and then I quit after that, and I worked in Ontario with Dr. Russ Furness, not far from Mohawk Raceway, when I was about 15 or 16, I guess. So, but then he sat me down in the trunk one day and said, he was a veterinarian himself, actually, from PEI originally, who was one of the top 5 drivers and trainers on the Ontario Jockey Club, it was called at the time, when Bill Wellwood and people like that were around back in the 70s. And he said, you got to go to school. So my mother said it was horses that were the problem, so I went the first semester after failing miserably the first time I tried it. And I got a 72 average. I had no horses, and my mother said, There, see what happened? So I got a $600 bursary from the PI government because they did so well, I guess. So guess what I did with that in the early January of the next semester?
You bought a horse.
I bought a horse. So then I had to try really hard, and I ended up with a 78 average that semester. So I've combined horses and education, and I've made a career and a lifestyle out of horses as a veterinarian and a trainer, and like I just said, I've enjoyed every single minute of it and wouldn't have done it any other way. Many people that are in the horse business or any other business have an out somewhere else to do something else. Well, I still enjoy working as a veterinarian, and I have every summer when I've been back in Ontario, and I might have to give it up now because I've got a couple of grandkids and I'm getting older and lots of other things to do, but I don't really want to give up the horses. We'll keep going with them as long as we can.
Well, you've had so much success with small numbers, and you know, we've talked to a lot of guys throughout this series, and they've mentioned that they're all about castration early. It makes for a good horse. You prove that that is not your method at all, and you've been successful. 3 of the horses here in your barn are from your own studs.
Yeah, and I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to do that too, that we're able to train and race really good horses like State Treasure and Arthur Blue Chip and Shadow Play, of course, and then for me to be able to train their offspring. Not only is it allowing me to support our own stallions, but it's given me the opportunity to do it all over again, if you like, and Lawless Shadow right behind us here is a prime example of that. So it's been good. Like I've seen people do that with their own stallions and maybe go broke doing it, but it's worked out well for us. And again, you know, I probably wouldn't do it any other way, but I do enjoy that. And I've got a 2-year-old Shadow Play colt this year. He's almost like a clone of his father in his mannerisms on the track, in the barn, everything. And I had to put an open bridle and earplugs on Shadow Play in February because I couldn't contain him when he was with other horses. I've got an open bridle and earplugs on this guy now as well for the same reason. He just wants to go 100 miles an hour. So I was a little hesitant when we bought him. He didn't quite have the conformation that I always look for in the front end, but that's probably coming from the Western Terra mare. But everything else about him was beautiful. He had a really nice body. He was black, which I really like, and seemed to be a well-mannered and intelligent colt. And I just there's not much else to choose from this year. There's not many in the round for some reason, so I said, well, we'll have to take a chance on him, and he's been well worth it so far. I've enjoyed him.
Great. Tell us a little bit about Stockadester, a $45,000 purchase from the London online sale. We met some of your partners earlier on that horse. Tell us a little bit about how he's progressing.
He's Shadow's Terror and that colt and Down by the Seaside colt that I have, they're my top 3 set, and those 3 can go anywhere you want with the hand holders nice and secure. We don't need to ask him very much. He's a very nice colt. I actually had 2 others out of that family. He can cut a mile, he can come from behind in a set of 3, and he just does whatever you ask of him. So again, we're optimistic and looking forward to him.
The Down by the Seaside was actually a name change from Ripple on the Sea to We Shall See, $50,000 yearling purchase as well at Harrisburg.
Well, the Down by the Seasides, as everybody knows, were tremendous last fall. I looked at them as yearlings the previous year because we had some success on the Ohio Sire Stakes with Lady Arthur, an Arthur Blue Chip filly that I had racing down there. But they were very expensive. They sold. I could only get one partner wanted to buy one of them with me, and they were a little bit too expensive for us the first year. But then I looked at this colt. He was a Springhaven consignment, and he's a beautiful colt. Like he has so many characteristics of Camluck in him, and I couldn't believe that he only went for $50,000. So yeah, we took him, and I bought him sort of on my own, and then shortly after the sale, I had more than enough partners wanting to buy a piece of him then anyway. So, and he's done well. He started out as a bit of a struggle. He wouldn't pace at all. He just trotted all the time. And when I put hobbles on him, we had to shorten them up. He's a big colt. We had to shorten him up to about 53 and he started going all crooked, all sideways on me every time the hobbles were on him. And so eventually I just kept letting them out. He wears a 61-inch hobble now. He still wears some gear for running out, and he still does a little bit, but he's 90% there now. He's almost there, and he's getting better every day.
Tell me a little bit about Sis, a $100,000 yearling purchase. We talked to her owners a little bit earlier, half-sister to Scarlett Hanover.
Yeah, her name was Sublime Hanover when they bought her at the sale. She's small, but she's well made in terms of conformation. There's nothing wrong with her fundamentally. I don't necessarily like a really small horse, but there wasn't many choices of the ones that the Jim and Wilma McKenzie had given me to look at, and she was the best of all of them, I think, and they were willing to spend a bit on her. I think that might have been their limit, maybe, I'm not sure, but anyway, they did get her for $100,000, and she's if she's by Sports Raider, so a lot of them are small by Sports Raider. So I look at that when I look at yearlings as well. If they're by Sports Raiders, you don't want to see them great big colts or fillies. You want to see them the size that you would expect them to be as a yearling by that sire, if you know what I'm saying. Where Down by the Seaside was a big horse, so you'd expect to see bigger yearlings by him. So anyway, she's been very good. She's very flighty and nervous. She's gotten a lot better though. She's practically there now, and all kinds of speed. I was just hanging on to her today. She's gotten very aggressive actually on the front end, and most of the Sports Raiders I have had over the years, they have been very decent yearlings or 2-year-olds, I guess, in the this time of year, March, April, May sort of thing, and so I'm hoping that she continues on with that stream and carries on for us, and so far so good, can't complain.
You talked about attitude, and one of the things that the fillies love is getting out in the morning. What other suggestions do you have for people who may be having trouble with their 2-year-old fillies?
Well, the getting out with fillies for me is basically for the tying up problem. It's a lot more common than many people realize, and I say that because I have my own blood machine here, so I have the ability, if I want to pull a blood on one right now to see if they tied up today, I can do that. It would probably surprise you if I sampled all 7 of those today, including the 3-year-olds who just had a couple days off after training on Tuesday and Saturday last week. And the barometer has just changed, the pressure's changed, it's hot, it's humid here today. There would be probably 3 of those that would probably have a little peak in their CK, like when I say little, maybe 2,000, 2,500, and those are the ones that might clinically or overtly show you tomorrow that they did tie up, where today you don't see anything. So I do a lot of blood checks on them. I have the ability to do that, obviously, so it's helped me. And one of the best things you can do with that with fillies is make sure they get out every day. It's not the do all in the for all of them, but it is a good thing to do. The colts, once they get into the routine, unless you have one that ties up, which is uncommon in young colts, not like it is in young fillies, then they're usually fine with just getting out and jogging and getting a couple days turned out a week sort of thing instead of every day.
There's an old saying that everyone has a tie-up remedy for horses and none of them work. What would you recommend?
Well, veterinarians call it tying up syndrome. That would be a common term for it. And when you talk about a syndrome, that means we know an awful lot about it. We have an awful lot of answers, but what works for one still doesn't work for the other. It's not carved in stone, and that's why I'm saying it's a lot more common than many people think it is, especially in the big stables where, the people, the trained eyes don't necessarily see them walk back from the bath stall or even see them walk from the stall to the bath stall after being on the track. And, it's gotten harder to get, as I know in the Harness Racing Update, it's talked about how hard it's gotten to get grooms nowadays, and grooms that have a lot of knowledge. So we're training young grooms, and they don't realize the things that they need to see, like tying up. So the biggest thing is routine with them. Horses are they're habitual animals. They get used to a routine, and if you get them in a good routine, and they're used to that, then that's very important. So for me, we try to jog them and get them on the track the same time every day pretty well, within an hour, say. They get turned out every morning the same time every day. If it's pouring rain or weather issues that we can't get them out, we make sure that we cut down their feed that day, because any excess energy is stored in the muscles of a horse in the form of glycogen. And then when you get a rapid burn off of that glycogen, if they go out and they get all excited and la-di-da-di-da, then they get the release of lactic acid, which leads to tying up in all shapes and forms, mild, moderate, and severe. The mild cases often go undetected, as I've already alluded to. So getting them in a routine, trimming their feed when necessary, turning them out every day, and just, I tell all my riders, just that needs to be on your mind every day when you step on that track. And I like to train them to walk for an eighth of a mile before we start them out. And when we start them out, there's nobody coming, okay? It's not like one coming 100 miles an hour and you start them out and away they go, because tying up is always instigated, at least I believe so, within that first quarter of a mile when you start a horse on a racetrack. It's not during a training mile. If it shows up during a training mile, it's because the problem already started 10 minutes earlier when you first went on the track. So that's an important time. Walk them, keep them nice and calm, nobody coming, start them up, and nice and calm when they're doing it. Keep them as contained as you can. And if you're not sure that something might be going wrong here, bring them off. Even if it's only 1 mile or 2 miles or whatever, take them off. I do that all the time, because if you try to keep going with them with what's written down on my sheet, then they will tie up.
So really focusing towards the individual. What other?
Very individual, yes. It's a very individual thing, because like I said, I've got 7 fillies and I could do the exact same thing with all 7 of them, and 1 or 2 of them might tie up and the other 5 won't, and there's no explanation for that, really.
For those guys that are interested in starting training babies, what else should they look for on the veterinary side that has helped you to get these horses to the racetrack healthy?
Well, feeding and conditioning is a very big part of young horses, and we take pride. My wife is actually the stable dietitian, Nancy, I guess, so she's very familiar and very knowledgeable about what they need. We do discuss it, of course, but we build our 2-year-olds gradually, if that's what we're talking about, 2-year-olds, I guess.
Please,
so we do build them gradually up to where a point now they're almost on full feed. As soon as they start going 2 trips, which usually starts when I'm in 25, sometimes towards the end of March, then we'll have them on what I call full feed then, which includes pellet ration. We feed Purina down here, and we use master feeds in Canada. Feeding and conditioning, very important. Vitamins or minerals, very important. You don't need a whole list of supplements like many trainers do. You need one quality vitamin and mineral product that will suffice and give them all they need to grow and to develop into a racehorse.
Which one do you recommend?
Developing into a racehorse is not just on the racetrack. It's in the feed tub and the water bucket. So they need all that, and they obviously had the added requirement of an older horse in that they're developing and growing as they're training. So I use one by a company called Farnham, Farnam, I think it is, which I've used since about 1975. It's called Vita Plus, and it's been improved and changed over the years. It's a pellet again. So if you use a powder supplement with a pellet feed, or unless you use a sweet feed or make mashes or whatever, which I don't do, then the powder is going to get sifted out, and many times you'll empty the bucket in the morning and you'll see the powder sitting there, so they're not getting it. So the Vita Plus is a pellet, which is what I prefer, and when I read the label, the ingredient label that's in it, it has everything in it that I think a young horse should have to have the ability and the opportunity to grow and develop like they should.
What do you do if you have a horse that isn't eating the pellets?
Then we will switch around. They're all individuals, as you just stated with the tie-ups. The same with feeding. We do feed them individually. In fact, Stockade is on half and half pellets and sweet feed. He's the only one in our string of 16 this year that we've had to do that. But you'll find with babies, as the year goes along, all of a sudden one of them might not like pellets, and you'll try for several days, and then you'll switch from the sweet feed and they'll eat it all. So that's just the way they are, and they're no different than you and I. Like, you know, I can't eat peppers, and I never will eat peppers probably. I've tried a few times but never will, but I couldn't eat tomatoes when I was younger because I used to get heartburn all the time. Now we eat tomatoes every day. I love them.
What about lameness? What should we look at when you're talking about conditioning the 2-year-olds?
Well, obviously very important with 2-year-olds as well, and it's pretty simple, and this has been said by many people, not me, but too fast, too soon, too far, too often. That's what leads to lameness and can also lead to attitude problems in them as well. So keep your babies happy, keep them well fed, well nourished, and all that they need. Have lots of jog miles on them on the track, and train them down very carefully, very, very methodically, and make sure you can read a watch and go exactly where you want to go every time you do it. And I drill that into all my trainers here as well.
I was going to say, one of the things they say about you is that you are a perfectionist, so I think that shows in the work that you put out on the track. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today, Dr. Moore. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Winback Farm of Canada is home to 8 outstanding pacers, including $2 million winner and O'Brien Horse of the Year betting line, who is new to Canada in 2022. Look for first crop yearlings from these 3 standout stallions in 2022. O'Brien Award winner and earner of over $1.4 million, Jimmy Freight, Horse of the Year and richest pacing stallion in harness racing history, McWicked, and O'Brien Award winner and Metro Pace champion, Stag Party. Also standing millionaires, Art Spink, Better Than Cheddar, Better's Delight, and Shadow Play. For more information, visit winbackfarm.com. That's winbackfarm.com.
In a field lies hope, anticipation. From the biggest races to the brightest stages, taking you on the wildest ride.
Forbidden Trade with a gigantic upset. Best in show, best in show.
For the glory, the pride, the payoff. Enter the field, the Ontario Sire Stakes program, from Ontario farms to the world stage.
The Central Ontario Standardbred Association is working with you to ensure a vibrant horse racing community. Shared stories call for a united voice. That's COSA, representing the interests of horse people racing at Ontario racetracks. So whether you're first, last, or somewhere in between, we've got your back. With insurance, benefits, free lifetime memberships, and more. COSA. Follow our stories on social and check out the process at cosaonline.com.